Hi, and welcome to the Power of Connection and Biz Show. I'm Kimberly Lane, Executive Leadership Coach, Engagement Partner, Best-selling author, and your host. Today, we have a fun and a unique show. Listen in, you speakers, executives, and web content presenters. Our guest today is a slide presentation design expert, and she has over 30 years of experience creating engaging presentations that inspire your audience and turn them into raging and raving fans. What's her superpower? It's in helping executives and entrepreneurs like you create a memorable presentation that truly resonates and connects with their audience. Now, her superpower has allowed her to work with such great businesses such as Xerox, Acura, Samsung, and PayPal. So without further ado, meet your design expert in presentations, Miss Brigette Callahan. Brigette, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Kim. I'm really glad to be here.
Wonderful. And as you know, this show's all about connection. And what a better way to highlight as speakers and as presenters and as entrepreneurs, sometimes, it's hard to connect with our audience, especially if we're doing it over a virtual presentation format. So really having those slides that really resonate and connect is really, really important. So I'm glad we're having this time together to highlight your expertise. So let's just jump in with the questions. How do you
Okay.
improve those connections with your audience visually?
Well, we connect with visuals. 65% of humans on this earth are visual communicators and learners. And so with that, it's think of like a Hollywood movie or when we watch television, we're compelled. It's moving pictures, it's people talking, it's graphics, it's all of that. And so we're so used to it that when someone turns on their slides and projects them, we kind of have that expectation of it's going to be that. And 99.9% of the time, we're disappointed and it's not that. And I want to shift that world. I think all slides should be like a Hollywood movie. And so, with that, we talk about the visual imagery that connects with what you're talking about and helps them remember so much more. It helps them, helps their retention. And what's cool about that too is when you orchestrate your slides properly and you practice, your slides can actually be your cheat notes for what you say next because you see the image and oh, I'm talking about that part of the story, or oh yeah, now I need to talk about my history of when I won that award at that company. So
And kind of to expand that a little bit more. So, how do you help that? How do you work with that individual to create that visual feeling or visual essence that they're trying to communicate? Are they giving that presentation to you initially, and then you're kind of saying, I get the sense of what you're trying to communicate. How about we suggest some images that display that? So, help us understand how you create that visual experience that has feeling and emotion to it.
yeah, it's like, I learned early on. My second job out of college was working for an event company in San Diego, and my job was to make the art director's visions come true. And so I was working on a drawing table. This was before computers. And the art director, he would get the script. It was a finished script. He'd get the soundtrack, the music and the voiceover, and then he'd listen to it really loud on his boombox. And we shared an office, and I'd watch him, and he'd be doing this with his hands and drawing. And he drew these really beautiful storyboards. And from the storyboards, we created the graphics. We got typeset, we found pictures. It also dictated whether we do video shoots or some still photo shoots, of people engaging. Because back then, there wasn't a lot of photo banks. You had to create your own photos or video. And so that is like how Hollywood is created. That's how Hollywood movies are created. It starts with a script, you storyboard the script, and then you create your slides. So I had a speaker who was a former Microsoft executive, and he was giving a talk on how finance departments don't get along with sales and how can they get along and help each other. And he gave his whole talk in writing. It was almost verbatim, and he didn't have to read it. He just spoke it because it was in his bones. So with that talk, I actually like to hear recordings. So I recorded it myself with my voice, and then I would listen to it just like my art director did, and I'd start seeing visuals and I'd start taking notes. Okay, let's show a picture here when we talk about this, or oh, we need a graphic there, or let's show some statistics here. And then it creates that visual story that then we go back and forth, and I'll show them some examples of slides and photos that we've picked. And they'll say yes or no, or can we add this here? And so it's a back and forth collaborative effort.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely have a creative background and experience, and that's obviously very important in creating these visuals, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
take a step back. And so, what would you say is the number one mistake most people make when designing their own slides before they come to you?
They go into their memory banks of what slides look like, and they think that's how I have to create it. And what is pervasive out there is they're using that white background with black text or something like that. And these white backgrounds is what kills it. If you want to put your audience to sleep, put all your slides on a white background. Because think about it, when the white shines from a projected device like your monitor or projector, our eyes go to the light. We look at the light, like in the movie theater. If we're in the movie theater and they just finished the trailers and the movie starts, normally they dim the lights. And if they don't dim the lights, you get upset. It's like, hey, the movie started, turn the lights off, because we like that dark feeling because we want to just look at the movie. Same with slides. If you switch it up and put a dark background with light text, it's so much easier and more relaxing. And even with the images, when you have a full frame image, nothing around the edges, no weird graphics or anything, just a full frame image, that's the Hollywood effect. And they're engaged in that image. And I talk a lot when I speak about how do we look at an image, what's the first thing we look at, and why is that important. But it really is like an image rich experience that maps on with what you're saying, and that hits the limbic brain, not the thinking brain, the emotional brain. And when that visual hits your brain, it's 10 times more brain synapses that get fired in that memory than when you're listening to words or when you're reading text. And so that's why that limbic messaging, that visual messaging, is so important.
I'm glad you brought that up because I am getting ready for some talks coming up, and my basic essence to people in this digital technological world or artificial intelligent world, the very thing that's being removed from all our interactions is the emotion that truly
Mm.
connects us and then helps us to relate and to feel, right? So, what you're introducing here is the feeling portion of the talk, not the logic, but by creating those images, you're creating a feeling within the audience that inspires emotion or inspires a connection or inspires a bonding moment of I know how that feels. Am I getting that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, one of my first projects that I had to do at this event company was take a globe, go home, and paint the water white and the land black. That was my assignment as a graphic designer before computers, right? And I came back Monday, I gave it to the art director, says, run this down to the photo studio. And I was like, okay, I didn't know they had a photo studio. He took the globe, put it on a spindle, rotated it 12 times, and took 12 still shots of it. And this is back when we did slideshows with two slide projectors next to each other and then a third one overlapping. And it was called a pano. And 3 days later, I hear this loud music playing in the building. And he's like, what's that? He says, oh, they're programming the show. Why don't you go to the theater and check it out? And I'm like, you guys have a theater? So I go in there, the music's welling. He's programming this rude computer to 36 projectors, and they're firing really fast. And so you see this like animation, and all of a sudden the globe is rotating slowly. It comes out dark, and then the blue and green of the gradation of the earth. And I was like, oh, I painted that. I was
Wow.
hooked after that. It reminded me of going to Disneyland. You know that 360 movie where you feel like you're moving? I love that. I love that just embodied emotion.
No, what a great story. What a great memory from your initial experience and probably kind of hooked you on this whole visual piece and the power
Mm-hmm.
of that because it truly moved you in that situation, right?
Yes.
You touched a little bit on how the brain or the audience's brain perceives a slide. Is there anything more that you talked about the don't have the white background and actually reverse it, have the dark background and the text maybe white? Are there any other things you can from a tidbit or an understanding in how we perceive slides?
Well, think of it like our attention span is so short nowadays, right? Like, how many people, as soon as a speaker goes up on stage, someone starts looking at their phone? It's like, what got them distracted, right? Um, and it's like we have all these pulls, especially on Zoom and stuff. It's like I could be multitasking right now. And what would compel them to just stop everything and want to listen to you? So you want to think of that, like put yourself in their shoes, think of the audience. And when we have this short attention span of like the goldfish, is like, how are you bringing up the conversation and the visuals. Like I had 138 slides that I showed in 30 minutes earlier today. I got to present to Microsoft. So that was pretty cool. And they had no idea how many slides I had. It didn't matter because I was talking through them like a Hollywood movie. I mean, we watch the Academy Awards. They win those awards for editing. Have you ever seen how many edits they do in like a second or in a minute? I mean, hundreds of edits go so quickly, and we just naturally see that. So when you can create that in slides, which you can, it's not like a movie necessarily, but it has that emotional reaction of they changed up a picture, but I'm not looking at the picture. I'm hearing what they're saying and I'm tying it to that picture. And I'm just, this is my sweet spot. You know, my team is excellent at finding these images that really get this story going. So it makes my job so fun.
No, it sounds wonderful. And it's very highly creative. Something I know growing up, I wanted to be an artist. Dad's like, no, we'll never make any money. So then of course I went.
I heard that too. My stepfather said that to me in 5th grade. And I was like, I'm going to prove him wrong.
And you did, and you have.
I did.
I'm sure he's extremely proud. But I'm just, as I'm thinking through this, because typically, you know, what they tell you as far as preparing for presentations is, you know, 2 minutes a slide. So if you're giving, like I'm coming to give up, coming soon to do a 90-minute PowerPoint presentation to Edwards Life Sciences, and would be 45 slides. And I'm like, I tend to do more of that just because in this virtual environment, you're kind of almost creating a movie theme is what I'm hearing you say. And so by having those continuous movement of slides, you're continuing to show the movie, right? It's kind of like, you know, way back when they were doing movies or when they're doing cartoons, right? Animated cartoons, aren't they taking pictures and they just spit them all together? And that's kind of what you're doing with this PowerPoint, right?
Exactly. And it's timing too, and cadence. You have to, you know, when you present enough, you get this cadence down. I remember one night I was helping a speaker with their 3-day event, and the first night was over, and she called me at 9:30, says, can you come to my hotel room? I need to make changes to my slides. And I said, well, the only way I'm coming over there if you have chocolate. And she's like, I have chocolate. So we go over there, spend about 10 minutes changing the slides. And I was in the room all day helping her. And I said, can I give you some advice? And she goes, yeah. Says, when you're presenting, you look at the downstage monitor, you stop talking, you click the clicker, and then you go to the next slide, and then you start talking. And like this pregnant pause just really causes this unhealthy, uncomfortable feeling in the audience. Here's what I want you to do. You know when you're about to finish, and I want you to click that slide, but like a couple of seconds before you finish your sentence. And what that happens is the audience sees the new slide, but you're finishing your sentence, and then you can continue with your next sentence, and it just naturally works with the brain. And she's like, I can do that? Really? And I said, yeah. Why are you questioning? He says, isn't that cheating? I was like, cheating? Well, then I'll know the next slide what to say. I was like, well, then cheat away.
Did she give you any feedback after she tried that? Did you?
Oh yeah, no, it's her favorite. It was the favorite bit of coaching I've ever given her.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So that sounds like one of your tips to providing speaker or presenter expertise to help create that Hollywood movie feel. Are there any other tips you'd like to share to create that raving fan feeling?
Have fun. You know, I love to have fun. And if you love what you're doing, it's going to evoke and come out to that. So it's your subject. You know it better than anyone out there. There's no need to be nervous. Will we be nervous? We will, because anytime you get into a strange environment, you're going to be nervous. But ride that nervous energy and enjoy it, because this is a chance you get to connect with this audience. And it's a different audience than the next one you'll be with or the previous one. And so how can you connect uniquely with them? How can you make a difference for them? How can you leave them remembering what you said so that 5 weeks from now, 3 months from now, they're acting on it, or they're referring you, or they're reaching back to you and saying, man, that presentation you gave, I'm still moved by it. And practice.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Practice. So I'm just sitting here thinking, if I'm on stage speaking, you know, I guess, how could you let your client know that it's working? Like, what are they going to see in their audience if they're connecting? Obviously people won't be on their phone, but just, are there any things that They might be common sense, but just what are your initial thoughts on what people might to kind of know? Oh, I got it. They're paying attention. Oh my gosh, they're
Well, a
engaged.
lot of times, like I call it like a room monitor, or I have your back. You know, when I work with speakers and they want me to be with them, to travel with them, I'll actually go with them and I'll be in the room and I'll see the reaction. I can feel the room and I can give them feedback afterwards. After a few times, they're going to just naturally feel the audience and they're going to look for cues of, am I reaching them? You know, and a lot of times it's like, you know, raise your hand if you've ever seen a boring slide presentation. It's like engage them, you know, and raise your hand so that they raise their hand. And you could do this in Zoom as well. You say, put in the chat if you've ever seen a boring slide presentation, yes or no. You know, if you haven't, say no. And so you're getting everyone to engage. And that kind of like, it deepens that connection. And you're not just talking to air, you're actually talking to humans.
In connecting, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there we're coming close to our time for the show.
Darn.
Yeah, no, I know, but you know what? You get another opportunity to kind of share. Is there one last comment or thought that you'd like to share with our audience before we close out the show?
Yeah, I just want to convey my commitment is to make a difference for 1 million audience members by working with 1,000 speakers. And I want to create that experience, that audience experience of like this, wow, it's like a Hollywood movie. I'm so glad I came and I feel like my time was well spent. And so that means you put some effort into what you're presenting, what your partner is up on stage, what are they looking at that really connects with them and deeply listens to what you have to say. And if you put that practice in place, put yourself in the audience's chair and see what are they seeing and how is it connecting with them. And if you're not sure, reach out to someone like me. I would love to help you up level that presentation because again, my commitment is to the audience. I love you speakers, but I say I don't care about you. I care about your audience and I want you to connect your best with them.
Right. So if we don't want any more death by PowerPoint, so speakers,
No.
entrepreneurs, and executives, you now have a resource to create those most resonating, engaging, and raving fans who really truly see you as an expert and create that Hollywood movie you always wanted to star in, right? So I want to say thank you to everybody that's enjoyed the show today. If you would like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, it's The Power of Connection in Biz. Again, thank you for listening. And a special thank you to Brigette Callahan, your expert in slide presentation creation. And you will find her contact information in the show notes. Thanks for joining us today. Brigette, thank you again. It's been
Oh,
a
you're
joy.
welcome. Thank you.